the brokerage is dying because there's so little money to be made, right? This is why you see all the ancillary. And then you look at teams, it's like, this is where it becomes more important for us. Like, how are we using that technology to nurture our database? If I've got a little tool that says, hey, look, here's Tristan AI, I can answer your questions too. Who's doing that for us? Yeah. Nobody right now. Yeah. Nobody's doing that for us. Who's going to be there for them?
Yeah.
Nobody right now.
Light It Up podcast.
Craziest podcast.
Welcome back to the Light It Up podcast. If you're new to this channel and you want to know everything about making money in real estate, selling, sales skills, building your business, or investing, then subscribe below, tap the bell for notifications so you can be the first to know what makes our great guests so successful.
Yep, and we get calls and emails every single day from people just like you. So whether you're new in the business or looking to grow, we're happy to help. Reach out.
All right, so today we have Tristan. Tristan, how do I pronounce your last name? Ahumada?
It's Ahumada.
Ahumada. All right. Ahumada. Awesome. Yeah. Well, Tristan, thank you.
Latino. It's Latino background.
I felt like I was going to butcher it as I was coming out of my mouth.
All right. I get it all the time, dude.
My last name is more difficult, and his is not.
Wait, what's your last name?
Scipione. But Scipione. Italians pronounce it Scipione, but you know, it's.
I like that, dude. That's gonna get screwed up every time.
Real Italian Americans just butcher it, but. Yeah. And then I got an Egyptian over here too, so
nice.
We're with you, man.
Yeah, I have to hyphen my name because no one can pronounce it. But while you guys were,
how do you pronounce your last name?
It's not even worth trying. I promise. It's Nasrallah.
Nasrallah?
Exactly.
He actually did a good job.
No, people say it's Nasrallah.
Mozzarella?
Nasrallah.
People say what?
All through middle school and high school, they're like mozzarella. I'm like, yeah.
Oh no, that's terrible. So it's Ahumada, but I always had people screw it up on purpose, and they call me Hakuna Matata.
I love that.
Like,
that ain't bad.
My first full name is Krolos, but then growing up in school, Jersey City, our area is the most diverse city in the nation. So people would call me either Carojos because the L's are pronounced differently, or they'd call me Carlos. So growing up, I was basically a Latino kid, but Egyptian inside. So
that's funny.
I get that. All right, cool.
Tristan, why don't you give us a quick intro? Give us a little bit of your backstory.
Yeah, I've been in real estate since 2004. Graduated college, went into law school, and then decided to do all in on real estate. It was going well. So I stopped law school, and then the market tanked. So I was like, damn, I shouldn't have left law school. Made it through the recession, discovered online leads, went all in. I was spending $70,000 a month, Realtor.com, Zillow at the time.
Damn.
Realtor.com's like, why are you spending so much and doing so well? Went into interview with them just to kind of give them what I was doing. They loved it. They put me on stage all around the country. I started LabCoat Agents, all on online lead conversion. And at the time, nobody was spending $70K a month, dude. It was like unheard of years ago.
Yeah.
And so as I started growing, they're like, who is this person? What are you doing? Show us your systems. What the hell's an ISA? What is this piece of tech you have that auto text people? What's Follow Up Boss? First year, Follow Up Boss, 2011. And then it just started growing from there. I started doing things that no other company, team, brokerage, agent was doing. And then Facebook picked us up. It's like, you've got a Facebook group and you're doing Facebook lead ads? Visit us in Palo Alto. So I did. Came over to their crib, and then they said, you want to run our real estate advisory board that we just started right now while we were talking to you? I'm like, I'm in. I'll run it.
Hard to say no to
that. So I ran that. Dude, I ran that for 4 years and then connected them to everyone in the industry at a broker level, corporate level. And so that's why they're involved there. And I've had the opportunity to now invest in multiple tech companies, and nice. I'm still doing real estate. Here I am.
Awesome.
That's insane, man.
Awesome. Well, we're going to jump into that a little bit further, but we'll dive into our lightning round.
All right. First question. What's the best and worst job you've ever had?
Best job? Oh man, I'm in it right now. I love real estate. I think this is the number one job I've ever had. Worst job? Damn, dude. Probably working. I used to sell ink cartridges in high school, summer job. And
I think I
used to
did
have to
that in
pick
high
up the
school
phone.
too, by the way.
Dude, I think everybody did our age,
Yeah.
right? Ink cartridges. So I had to pick up the phone and call. That wasn't the bad part. The bad part was that I was sitting in a boiler room type setting in Los Angeles, like not the nice part of LA. And I was sitting there and with a bunch of like middle-aged guys smoking, talking about things I shouldn't be hearing about when I'm in 11th grade, 10th grade. And just like, and I grew up. That's where I grew up. I'm like, I don't know. And so that's probably the worst job I had.
That's awesome, man.
The ink cartridges I sold were like the knockoffs. So like if
oh shit, that's
so
even
like
worse,
if
man.
Canon's cartridges were like $200, ours were like $40. But they worked in like the other people's machines. So we just like they came out with a new one and we just knocked it off. And then I would have to sell it.
Like Fugazi, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Thank God that didn't
funny.
pan out. All right. So would you rather save money or save time?
I would rather save time 100%.
Love it.
Time is way, way more precious.
Yeah. Who's someone you really admire?
My mom. You probably get that question a lot, mom, dad, siblings. But for me, it's probably my mom. She was with me a lot of the times when I was growing up small. And both my parents were married at the time, but my dad had an alcoholic problem. He was an alcoholic. So we had to go get him at bars sometimes, like in the middle of the night after like 2 days of not showing up.
Wow.
And she's like, you know what? I had enough. I'm done. I'm just going to go ahead and take this life of ours and do something with it. So she started a jewelry business, like a door-to-door type thing. And it blew up. And then she started growing. And I was like, that's my mom. And she started showing me how to do stuff. That's who I admire.
So you left the ink cartridge business to work for the jewelry business.
She's the one that said, hey, I've got a job for you this summer. I'm like, why do I need a job? She's like, so
Awesome.
That's who put me in there.
Awesome. What activity do you enjoy so much that it makes you lose track of time?
Fortnite. Shit. Seriously, dude. Like every game, if I'm
You
going
said
to
that
get,
out loud.
if I'm going to get
You want to do over on that one?
no, I'm like a
I'm
battle
just kidding.
royale. Like,
I've actually never
I
played,
know.
but I've heard a lot of great.
Dude,
Yeah.
I'm a big gamer, so we play as a family. So time even goes by quicker. So that means I get my headset on. I'm all ready to go. All our computers are in the house. So we're yelling at each other like, dude, you were supposed to cover me on that corner. You didn't tell me about that other person.
You're grounded.
Right? And so, it's a lot of yelling, but a lot of good yelling.
I love that. That's insane. Have you ever grounded any of your kids for that?
No, but I.
You're going to let your dad die? You're going to let your dad die?
Yeah,
Sometimes
Kiro's
I'm
impersonating
very-
his father. You ever play Fortnite with your father?
No, but that's what he would say. You let your dad die?
That's funny.
Protect me?
That's very funny.
Oh, God.
You don't see that guy coming?
That could be a whole different podcast. Daddy issues.
Yeah, for
Daddy
real.
issues from Fortnite.
Takes out the belt. He's like, come here. I show you how I feel now. But
Dad, it's just a game. It's just a game.
the way you do anything is the way you do everything. That's funny.
That's so good.
Tristan, were you going to share when you grounded your kid? I feel like
No, I actually never really grounded my kid for Fortnite. I was going to say, we get emotional though. So,
that's passion.
It's competitive. It's a competitive and fun. So
Yeah, man.
it's good.
You've done so much and accomplished so much. What would you say is the one accomplishment that stands out to you that you're the proudest of, business-wise, amongst everything else?
Business-wise, I would say being able to dude, that's a hard one, but I think it's a continual ability to adapt through different markets and through different economies as a whole. Because now we've been able to shift outside of real estate and do other things as well.
Yeah.
And just anticipate what's going to happen based on the amount of reading I do, the amount of conversations I have, the relationships I have, just staying on top of what is going to happen and understanding it enough to adapt quickly.
Yeah.
So I don't know that it's one thing, but that for all my businesses.
Yeah. We were talking about this earlier, and it was like almost perfect. And before we talked to you, we would say that before we started doing this podcast and meeting people and started building these different relationships, we would always say, yeah, you need to know everything about your industry, know everything about your industry. Now it's like, I feel like you need to know everyone in the industry more than anything else. And that helps you adapt more than anything else. And we were recently asked separately, hey, what's the biggest
That's what
takeaway?
Pace just said, right?
That's true, yeah.
Pace said on our episode. He said, I never claimed to know everything, but I claim to know everybody.
Yep. And the biggest thing that was an aha for me is the other day someone asked me, hey, you've spoken to so many great people. What's your biggest takeaway? And I'm like, there's no one big takeaway that you get from speaking to so many different amazing people. It's just you realize that you're not doing things at the best level that you could be, or maybe you're in the wrong industry completely, right? So with adapting and speaking to so many different people and the relationships you built, what are your biggest takeaways or biggest ahas for you?
There are a few, actually. And the one that comes to mind right now is probably that successful people in all different verticals, okay? So not just financially, but in all different verticals, is that they make time to think and get creative about that specific vertical. So in this case, real estate. In real estate, the most successful people is those people that give themselves the grace to be able to daydream, mastermind, think about what the possibility looks like of tomorrow if they go on a tangent with this new idea or new thing. And the problem is that a lot of us who are in the middle of it, real estate, day-to-day, grinding, we're very reactive and we don't have time to think. We don't have time to be like, I wonder if we tweak this, what happens on an automated piece? If I add this to Zapier and connect it to ChatGPT and then connect it to Follow-Up Boss, and it's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
What did I just discover? That.
I love that.
Can you do that for me?
But no, that's a good point, because I totally relate to that. But then also at certain times, like I would call John and be like, hey man, what about this idea? And he'd be like, you're just thinking of a distraction. How do you differentiate the difference between a distraction and something that's innovative that would help the business?
It's pretty easy. I track a lot of my ideas on a Trello board, and I let them sit there for a little bit, and you'll see like in 2-3 weeks, the ones that really stand out because you keep on having those conversations or you keep on seeing them pop up. You're like, that is a good idea. And then the other ones just sit there and you're like, that was a shitty idea. How did I think that was a good idea?
Yeah.
Right. So then once you get there, then you start formulating and creating a process. So the idea is once it's there, then it requires time, right? Your question at the beginning, what do you value more, saving money or saving time? Time, because then I can go back and say, okay, I had this idea that I liked. Now, what would this look like if I formulate this? What are the first steps? How do I create more of it? Who do I need involved, right? Does it just require me for now? And at this point, through COVID, I built a massive staff. So now I can just be like, I've got this idea that I formulated. Take a look. Can we do it?
Yeah.
Right. So that's how I would do it.
When do you do your best thinking? Because like the way you described it was a lot of us are so caught up on our hamster wheel and you know, in the day to day. When do you actually set aside time to think about work on the business instead of work in the business?
I asked this question to Glenn. You guys know Glenn Sanford, obviously. Yeah. So Glenn and I have been friends for a long time, and I asked him that question a while back. He says, "Man, the key thing to a lot of my success and a lot of the success that other people have is time for tinkering, and the time for tinkering differs for people."
Yeah.
And so for me, it's usually in the morning time or late in the evening. And I think for most people, it's early in the morning before they get bombarded by other people, because other people want to push their priorities on you, right?
Yep.
Your phone has notifications and it just starts blowing up in the middle of the day. So I typically say for most people, it's early morning and then late at night, unless you set time in your schedule to be like, I'm out for an hour, guys, or I'm out for 30 minutes. Let's go. For me, in the middle of the day, that's where I've done it.
Yeah. Do you identify the issue first and then say, I need to find a solution for
No. You don't identify the issue first. That's actually a big mistake. Once you start identifying the issue, you kind of block out the possibilities of something else being an issue. And so you actually don't formulate what you think is the issue. You just kind of work with what you have and say, what am I seeing here? What's wrong here? What are the possible solutions to something that I'm not fully understanding? And then you start going through. It's like, oh shit, I was completely off. Or I didn't see that. And I think a lot of people start with, well, that's the problem. Let's solve for it. And I think that's just the beginning.
Yeah.
So yeah, good question.
Can you walk us through? So you said that you started ISAs in the early 2000s, and we got familiar with ISAs a couple of years ago. And before that, it was foreign. How did that idea and inspiration come up, and how did you implement it when it was new?
It was because I worked at ink selling ink cartridges.
Yeah.
Right. And I did Nielsen TV ratings, and then did door-to-door window sales. Fucking went into all that shit. Anyway, I was fielding calls, and then once the people were ready, I would set them up to somebody else. I was like, why don't we do that in real estate? Because I'm getting all of these online leads. It wasn't until I started getting 2,000 leads a month, I was like, there's no way our team can handle it. They're dropping all the good stuff. So I said, why don't I try to hire somebody who can kind of field the calls like I did when I was doing the ink cartridge thing.
Yeah.
And that's where I formulated the idea of somebody receiving the calls and then qualifying them and then sending them to the agents.
Yeah.
It's almost like majority of businesses won't be profitable today if they don't have an ISA platform. So it's kind of crazy that you had that idea.
Yeah, I think you've got two different segments here. One is if you do have leads coming through, or you're having somebody make the calls, it is important for you to have somebody there, kind of like a buffer to qualify or to nurture. And then there's the other side of this, which is we meet a lot of people that have a lot of their business come from referrals, right? And past clients and Sphere and all that. So it would always be like you need somebody to work that angle, like a concierge ISA, right? Somebody that nurtures and loves on them a lot more. So kind of like two different roles there. Yeah. And we put that one in place just a little over 10 years ago. It's like a database ISA, focused more on our core Sphere, core past clients.
Sure.
And then they're in charge of just making sure that we lose the least amount of those people as possible. Right.
So would you
that's good.
Would you consider yourself a visionary more than anything else?
I've never been asked that question. I don't know, man. I'm just going to say yes. Sure.
Yeah.
It's the first time I've been asked that question.
No, because it sounds like you know, one of the biggest takeaways you've taken from conversations is being able to adapt. And then your thought about adapting what you took from the ink cartridges business into real estate, right? So that's like you're connecting dots of voids. Looking at today's market and how things are changing, what are you thinking to tinker in next?
Yeah, I think while people are paying attention to teams, we saw that happening before it was happening, right? I'm like, teams are going to be absolutely amazing. When we talk to corporations on the real estate side, they do see that teams actually, their ROI, the return on investment, dude, when you look at it, the brokerage is dying because there's so little money to be made, right? This is why you see all the ancillary. And then you look at teams, it's like, now there's two types of teams. You have the teams that are all in on buying expensive leads. And the only way that works is on a volume scale. And even then, we look at the net sheet and it's like, shit, you shouldn't be buying leads like that.
Yeah.
It's like they're addicted to crack.
You're not netting that much.
You should be going to Google PPC or Facebook lead ads, right? Less expensive. Let's work on the nurturing conversion process. And then you look at it and say, well, that's where we're at right now, and maybe slightly into the future. But what a lot of people aren't paying attention to are the mega agents and mega partnerships that are going to flourish because of AI. Like right now, you're starting to see a little bit of it with Chime. Chime's done a pretty good job with their AI, and Raya with Ylopo, right? You've seen that they've now progressed from good machine learning to now in depth, and now they're using the old responses that actually worked automatically in there. It's like, oh, okay, cool. It's actually real machine learning. It's kind of nice.
Yeah.
Right. I can rely a little bit more on this AI to not screw things up, and in Spanish and in English. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And now that allows one agent who's invested heavily, let's say on Google PPC in our area costs about $20 a lead. So now if I can say, okay, if I get 100 of these and I can close one, right? That's a pretty good damn ratio in my area.
Yeah.
Right.
$200.
Now, if I put AI in place for every single one of them, not only to intercept them as soon as they're coming in, but to also nurture them, love them, and go along the way. And once AI gets there, to now email them, follow them on social, engage with them on social, create ads for me, retarget them. This is all automatic. Once they're ready to write up an offer, you're like, okay, I'm ready to write up an offer after we meet and everything. And all I do is have to message my AI and be like, write up an offer for 600,000, 20% down, and make it like this. Boom, in 3 minutes or less, you have a full-on offer sent to the client, DocuSign, back to you. All you have to do is review it, make sure you're like, it looks good. Boom, done. Now I'm able to scale that as a single agent partnership. All I have to do is have good staff and good AI to be able to handle. That's what people aren't paying attention to. It's like that right there nets me a lot more money, dude.
Yeah. That's insane.
Sure.
That's what's going to happen.
And you're referring to structurally that they use in Ylopo and Chime just got in. That's the AI texting platform.
Ylopo created Raya as an automated
Response
tech tool, initially, and then it shifted over to more AI. They have some proprietary tech, and so now it's looking like more real AI.
Got it.
Right, and when Chime started their AI service to respond to online leads, they just went directly to machine learning with Google. I think they used TensorFlow on Google, but now it's progressed, and now you see two things. They're using Google's machine learning for that, but then they've also added a connection to ChatGPT, which is they're using GPT-3 to now allow you to create whatever type of response you want on a text. So I can just click and be like, hey, I'm trying to respond to this person, click, and it'll just populate a response. I'm like, oh, cool, that sounds good. Click send, right?
That's wild.
That's where they're at right now. I think the future is going to be for that serious agent that treats this like a business, no longer has to rely and say, I want a team like we know teams now. More like, I want a team, but I'm going to run it like a business.
Yeah.
I don't need full-on team members. I need a showing agent, I need staff, and I need someone to manage all of my technology, which means that they're going to have to integrate artificial intelligence into this fast.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why I hired last year, a month before, I didn't even know, but a month before ChatGPT was announced, I'm like, I need somebody who understands and pieces all of my tech and AI together. And I hired him. He's Trenton. He runs all of my tech and AI.
Nice.
And then ChatGPT came out. I'm like, oh shit. I go, jump on that shit with me. I go, you got to figure this all out. And so we're integrating everything. But yeah, director of technology.
That's insane.
Where's Follow Up Boss with all that? Like, how come they don't really incorporate? I mean, they have APIs for stuff, but
Follow Up Boss is great, man. Only because they're kind of like Switzerland. They allow themselves to work with every company, and they make it super easy, like really, really easy. And this is why you have all of the top teams in the country and in Canada using Follow Up Boss, because they literally make it easy. Oh, you want that? Yeah, we got it. Like, oh, you want to work with Ylopo? Done. You want Facebook lead ads to run through it? Done.
Yeah.
You want to integrate AI with it? Easy. Done. Right.
Yeah.
That's how easy it is.
Yeah.
That's why.
Have you heard of Place? Ben Kinney started a company called Place.
Yeah, man. So before Place, there's this company called Fusion. I don't know if you know Fusion, by James Becker. James Becker actually came up with the idea before Ben Kinney did. Ben Kinney just brought a brand. And it's nice to see like the brand, the recognition of Ben, right? And so, very familiar with Place. That's cool. I don't think that that's going to be like the future. You're already starting to see people copy. Like there's Place, there's Livian, which is it Keller Williams, right? Gary Keller owns it. He bought it from Adam. I forgot his last name. And then you have other companies like Side, right? And then you have other companies that are coming out that you haven't heard of yet. They're all trying to copy place. They're like, oh, interesting. We can create a brand that runs the marketing for you, helps you with payment, and you can be any brokerage.
Yeah.
And I'll take 50% of that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, dude, come on. Are agents fucking getting lazy as hell or what? It doesn't make sense to me, dude.
Yeah.
It does not make sense. At that point, I'm not running a business. But people are like, you got to look at Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. They only own like a small percentage of their companies. I'm like, stop comparing yourself to that. You're just a real estate agent. Listen, if you want to survive, then this is a relationship business. Get to work with your relationships, and every tool and tech piece that you see out there, see how it fits into your business to strengthen those relationships.
Yeah.
And the most visited websites in the world, they're not Keller Williams or EXP or all this shit. It's Google, number one, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and then Twitter.
Yeah.
Those 4 out of those are social. What are you doing on social on a daily basis? What? And where are you on Google?
Yeah.
Where?
Yeah.
Right. So, dude, place, it's a good idea, but long term.
Based off what you were saying with like the future of AI partnering up with an agent, it's almost like the idea of place and why people are doing it is because there's such a big need for it.
Yeah, there is. There's a big need for it, but here's what's happened. It's a stepping stone to what happens next.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because you and I, once AI is all settled in, it's like, wait a second, why do I need a place or a Livium or whoever else? It doesn't matter, right? Why do I need those if I can do it for a fraction of the cost through AI company that does everything here?
Yep.
Doesn't make sense. So yeah, it's a stepping stone.
Yeah.
It's a needed stepping stone right now.
With what you know and the experience you have with having to go around state to state teaching people systems, processes of how to maximize on like realtor.com, for example, how do you see systemizing the next steps for that transition to partner up with AI?
You're either going to have to jump in and figure it out on your own, which I know a lot of us don't have time to do, or hire someone. And what you're going to start seeing is that position that we created, like Director of Technology and AI, that position you're going to start seeing pop up a lot more.
Yeah.
Because it's like us. We needed a Director of Operations. We needed a Director of Marketing. We needed all these people, right? Well, now you're going to have that person. And they're going to come in and say, well, AI is doing this. Let's incorporate it into this and make your life a lot easier, right? So that's going to be one piece. The other one is taking the time to do it. Like if you don't have the money, then that means you've got the time.
Yeah.
Right? Your ass needs to figure it out. Like I need to figure this out right now. So let's go all in and invest time every morning and seeing how can I fit this into what I do. And as a single agent, dude, I'll tell you, for me, it'd be like, how can I implement AI to nurture, connect with, and then eventually convert my past clients, my sphere, my farm, my database, all of that authentically.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is that you have to add your flavor to it. And I think that's where a lot of us think that when we pick something up, it's like, it's ready to go. Let's go, click go. And then it doesn't work. And you're like, this shit doesn't work. And you're like, that's because you don't put any effort or love into it. Right.
Yeah.
So the guy that you hired that's head of your technology or director of technology, what's his background? Like, where did you find him?
So I try to hire people that I know or people that are recommended by people I know. And so this person, when I was leading the advisory board for Facebook and Instagram, they were helping us understand deeper what they were doing with lead ads. And then at the time they were called DARE, like dynamic ads for real estate, which is just retargeting. And so when we were doing that, we would also run trainings. And in one of those trainings, I met this guy. I was showing him how to run Facebook ads, how to run Instagram lead ads, how to run all of that. So we trained him. And then he then went to his company, which was a mortgage company. And they spent millions of dollars running ads on Facebook and Instagram and other things. And then that company got bought out. They got bought out for millions. So he was out of a job. He literally texted me. He says, hey, man, I'm looking for a job. I'm like, shit, I know who you are. Hired. And that's how it happened.
Wow.
I trained him, so I know what he knows.
Yeah. Moving on to the next thing that you said that was the biggest takeaway. So adapting was the first. What was the second biggest takeaway?
The ability to believe in yourself, knowing that I have a big challenge with this one, but that you know what's happening in your industry. With the amount of time I put into everything that I do in real estate, I tend to feel like maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not right. Right. And it's taken years for me to be like, no, you're right. Like, let's go back. Let's go back 18 years. It's like, you've called it every time. Interesting. Right. And so I still fight myself, which is interesting. And I'll tell you, one of the times that I fought myself was like, I shouldn't have, but here we go. So I meet Glenn Sanford for the first time.
Yeah.
He's like, Tristan, I've got this amazing company. It's called EXP, and this is how it works. And I'm going to go around the United States on a bus. And I'm going to make it grow. I'm like, dude, I don't know. But I loved the idea, right? I'm like, this looks good, right? I wonder how we could do this on a team level. This is me thinking on a team level, right? He had 300 agents at the time. And he goes, I'll give you 1 million shares of EXP, and then you can help us grow it. And I'm like, I thought about it and I wanted to, but then I felt like I had loyalty to a different company idea, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, maybe I'm wrong. So I decided not to. And obviously, 1 million shares is a shit ton. You know that.
Yeah.
So especially at the peak. And so we became friends, but I second guessed my gut, right? And so I go back, and every time I've done that, it's been like, damn it, I shouldn't have. And so what I've learned recently is that I talk to so many people in the industry and outside at a high level that I just let my brain connect the dots now and be like, oh, that's what's going to happen. Got it. And I don't second guess myself as much anymore. Yeah. And I think that believing in yourself to have enough confidence to take action on it and then adapt along the way, because the key is adaptation. Right?
Yeah.
The key is adopting that the idea that things are going to change and you need to change quickly with it. Yeah. That's how you make things work. Yeah. Right. It's like, look at all the companies that started with the idea that they were this, and now they're completely different. That's because they changed along the way. And that was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we have the idea like, oh, we're starting this and this is how it's going to look. And then when it doesn't look that way, you give up. You're like, it didn't look that way.
Right.
I was like, no. So, LabCoat Agents started with the idea that let's all talk about online lead conversion. That's it. And then I was like, wait a second, nobody wants to talk about that anymore.
Shit, we need a new topic.
Yeah. And so I just let it grow on its own, and then I pepper in the culture. So anyway, that's what I'm learning.
We had Chris Voss on last week, and it's so crazy with even small conversations. It's like you have to have a plan and you have to adapt. It's 2 parts. And the plan is equivalently as important as the adapting part of the conversation. So he's negotiating hostage releases, and he's like, I have a plan to get them released. But then the adapting between that is equally as important.
Things are going to come up.
No matter what.
Yeah, man. I think we can learn that in any business that we're growing. It's like your ability to adapt quickly to the situation will either give you the success you're looking for, or it will set you back.
And there's so many different things you have to adapt to, like the actual business, market conditions. There's the business that is changing as you're building, and then there's market conditions, like or just world conditions like COVID and things that happen. So
you're building the plane while you're flying it, which is the hardest thing.
Yeah, there you go.
The one thing, Tristan, that you said is that connecting the dots when you're speaking to people. Can you give an example or share a story of what you mean by that?
Yeah. The one that comes to mind is I was talking to Gary Keller, and he was breaking down. So he and I were just talking like this on Zoom. He's like, hey, let's talk about teams. I'm like, okay, let's talk about teams. He's like, I really think that teams are, this is a year ago, less than a year ago. No, about a year ago. He's like, teams are the future. This is where they're at. They're netting more. He's showing me everything. I'm like, yeah, I know. I agree, man. And he's outlining the things of what's going to happen next. And I'm like, yeah. And it's coming from Gary, right? It's like 189,000 agents. And I'm like, damn, it's everything he's breaking down and showing me, I already know. And we already looked at this, and we already anticipated all of this. And then I'm saying, shit, it's like, there I am second guessing myself, right? And then he says certain things, and I'm like, yeah, I think I go, I don't think that that's actually what happens next. I go, let me share with you what I think happens next, right? Which is AI, right? Machine learning, going in depth. And then what happens? Fucking AI comes out like a few months later, right?
Perfect timing.
And then I'm like, okay, that, right? Just talking to people and listening to them when it comes to their strengths, because you can learn a lot from everyone from their strengths, and then applying what you know and then shifting it over to what you're great at, right? Yeah. And I'm great at piecing things together, right? And so I'm like, oh shit, this goes here. Oh, this person needs to meet this person, right? And so that really the best example I can give you that's recent with Gary. So Gary and I are still friends, obviously, even though I'm at EXP, but just talking to people at different levels and just shutting up and listening.
Yeah.
That's it.
I love that.
That's number one.
Did you take Glenn on? You should have been like, hey, remember that $1 million offer you gave me? $1 million shares?
shares
before?
Does that still stand?
Yeah, he shares that on stage sometimes, and I'm like, fine.
Why you say that? That's fun.
Yeah.
As you were saying the Gary Keller story, the one thing that came in my mind as I was thinking about it, I was like, yeah, teams are becoming a thing, but then the brokerage will shrink, but then now the teams will end up shrinking the same way. It's like history will repeat itself over and over again. So there needs to be a disruption.
Teams will shrink because of what?
So the same ways that, think about it, the same ways that brokerages became obsolete is the same ways that teams will become obsolete in the future.
Why?
It's only because it's the survival of the strongest, essentially, within that.
Because there's other teams?
Not because of other teams. It's just because of, okay, you're fighting against people with splits, lead flows, this and the other, nurturing relationships with social aspects. Like
because there's other people doing it better.
Well, it's about relationships. Who can have the most relationships, right? So if it's Google, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, like the five that you mentioned, and there are 4 social platforms, it's the people who have the most relationships. So leveraging AI to create more relationships, a team can't give you relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's the other piece, and I don't know the legalities of this, but I know it's being talked about already. And that's when you have a company like Zillow or Redfin put at the front of their site something like a real estate AI, right? I don't know the legalities, licenses or not licensed, right? But saying like, ask us any question, or here I'm a AI real estate. I don't have a license, but ask me any questions. So then you're like, well, look, I'm looking to buy a house. I have 40% down. Should I buy a duplex or upload it? And then all of a sudden it gives you the answer. Now, all of a sudden, because I'm listening as Zillow or Redfin or Realtor.com, I'm listening to your request. Not only am I giving you an answer, but I'm also prompting an agent and saying, hey, agent, I've got a really high quality lead for you. I'm going to take 50% because it's super high quality, but I've got it ready for you. Here it is. They actually asked this question and the AI responded like this. So now you're conditioning the consumer to go directly to these sites to not only look for property, not only look for value, but to look for answers to your real estate questions. So why the hell would you reach out to a real estate agent until you're ready, right? Yeah. But when you're ready, they've already captured you.
Yeah.
And that's what we're fighting against, right? And I don't know who's going to win that race, dude. That's a whole nother race that's going to happen.
Where are we going? Where's the industry going?
The industry is going to allowing the consumer to function without a real estate agent for a bigger portion of their discovery period. And then if that happens, who's going to capture that? The people that spend the most money on it, right? Redfin, CoStar, Zillow, those companies. And then that means they're going to hold the keys to the people that are inquiring initially. But this is where it becomes more important for us. Like, how are we using that technology to nurture our database, our sphere? My phone, like, why don't we extract everybody from this?
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, and then just upload it into Follow-Up Boss and then categorize them. And then what do we do after we categorize them? Well, we should be following up with them. And if we can't, something should be.
Right.
AI.
Yeah.
But
and training them, in my opinion, training them to use your site versus Zillow.
Yeah.
Or versus
my tools. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I've got a little tool that says, hey, look, here's Tristan AI. I can answer your questions too, right?
Yeah.
But your tools have to be equivalent.
Exactly.
Or at least
who's doing that for us?
Yeah.
Nobody right now.
Yeah.
Nobody's doing that for us. So it's going back to the very same thing that Zillow anticipated and saw. It's like, hey, everybody wants to know their estimate of their property, right? And they created the Zestimate.
Yeah.
Who cares if it was all wrong, right? It kind of gave you an idea, and that's what they wanted. So now we're at a whole new ball game. It's like, wait, the consumer wants answers to the questions that they have for real estate, and they're more in depth. Who's going to be there for them?
Yeah.
Nobody right now. Nobody.
I'll be there for them.
I would be there.
All of us locally, yes.
I'm
right?
being sarcastic. I know what you mean. Yeah.
I know. It's stressing.
We had the privilege of shadowing Robert Slack in Orlando a while back.
Nice. I love Robert.
Yeah, he's an awesome man, so super smart. And when we were talking to him, his biggest thing was Realtor.com. He was spending like $1 million a month on Realtor.com, and it's insane. And we were sitting there, and he was telling us, he was like, yeah, when I first started, the response time was 15 minutes. Then it went down to like 2 minutes and 1 minute. Now it's like 5 seconds. So he's like, the speed to lead is like the biggest thing that makes him so successful with dominating it and having all those ISAs.
Yeah. Then
he goes into some of the issues that he was battling out. Like he was telling us off record what he was dealing with some of the Realtor.com issues that he was going through with them. And then it was like an epiphany that hit me when I was there. I was like, well, if you think about it, Zillow just bought Showing Time. So and by the way, if you look at Zillow's like job ads, they've been hiring escrow agents. So what's stopping them from creating a really cool, nifty app that can be monitored, or, the AI can deal with it, where you get pre-approved by one of the preferred vendors. You get a background check. Like I have my gun license. So whenever I have to go buy a gun, they do a NIC check, which is a background check. So what if you want to request a showing to see a property? Now they do a quick background check on you, make sure that there's not going to be any issues. The seller can confirm. The consumer can go directly to the house almost immediately, open up a one-time code with a lockbox, get in there. You have a preferred title, preferred lender, preferred everything. And then you have just a listing agent that's probably like a Zillow Flex, or is it Zillow Flex, that has that listing that's preferred there. I totally see that happening.
Yeah, dude. Look,
I think
it's important to look at that, what you said, because Zillow's end goal is to replace the current agent that we see now, right? They don't want to replace us completely, but they want to replace who we are now.
Yeah.
And that's exactly it. They want a bigger chunk of the pie. At that point, if they do that, why would Zillow Flex just ask for 35 or 40%?
Exactly.
Why not ask for
75,
60%? Right?
Yeah. I mean, this is recorded in August 2023, and 2 years from now, that percentage is going to be much, much bigger.
Yeah.
And exactly. I don't think they'll ever cut out the agent completely.
I agree.
Because it's sort of like a buyer just walking off the street and trying to transact with a FSBO. It's the two. There's so much emotion involved, and the FSBO's always overpriced, and the buyer off the street wants a discount. And I think there has to be some person unbiased in the middle negotiating the process. But I think they could certainly eliminate a lot of what the buyer's agent does. And like you said, the example you gave, there's still a listing agent. There's still one person as an intermediary. I think that's certainly possible.
Yeah, well, in London, it's like that. I met this guy when I was traveling a couple months ago. He's like, yeah, there's only listing agents. Like there's an agent that represents the estate, and then they come through and it's done. So you could see how it would weed out a lot of people. Those teams would become then obsolete at that point in time. And it's the people who are leveraged, like you're saying, adapting, using technology, that would be able to leverage the relationships and the trust that would be able to probably survive against that Zillow kind of ad. Yeah,
and you have two markets. Mostly two markets. I would say the metro areas, right? And then you have the luxury areas.
Yeah.
And if you want to see how a single agent can survive and thrive in the future markets, you look at the luxury market. The luxury market is 100%, every luxury market, 100% relationship based, right? And those people that they work with, the consumer, they just want to dump whatever it is and not have to worry about it at all.
Yeah.
The moment you get to that type of trust between the agent and the consumer, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And so we can learn a lot from the luxury world, that market. And if we want to succeed in the future world of our real estate world, I think we need to learn a lot from them.
That's true.
Yeah, that's awesome. Interested in closing, what's one thing that you want to leave the audience with?
Y'all need to read more. That's it. You fucking pick up a book, read it, listen to audiobooks, webinars, podcasts, You need to ingest a lot more into your life, but not just passively read or listen. You need to take notes, see what you're going to change in your business and in your life, or else you're just going to keep on living the same life you were living last year.
Yeah. What's one must-read book on your list?
Extreme Ownership is my favorite book of all time by Jocko.
Awesome. And if someone wants to reach out and connect and collaborate, what's the best way to do so?
Instagram. Just go to Instagram, Tristan.Ahumada. And if you can't spell it, you know what? You'll find it.
We're closing the same way we started.
Yeah, man.
Awesome. Hakuna Matata. Hakuna Matata.
It's been an absolute pleasure, man. Thank you so much
for
for jumping on.
We really appreciate you spending some time with us today. This has been great.
Thanks, guys.